What's up everybody, JJ Buckets here, and you're on that channel, so you know it's that time. We are talking basketball.
Bye.
Now, for today's video, I know a couple of people have already covered this. I mean, I feel like I've seen a few videos around there talking about Ben Simmons to Toronto and the potential idea of that, but I want to give my input on this, especially because I feel like I'm probably a little higher on Ben than a lot of other people are. Don't take that the wrong way though. Let me justify it and hear me out throughout this video. That being said, even being somebody that's a little bit higher on Ben, I do think there is a massive problem that I feel like nobody really wants to talk about when it comes to trading for Ben Simmons, and it's literally the point of this video to an extent. So Ben Simmons, obviously the reports have come out about the teams interested, and the Raptors are amongst those teams, which, you know, obviously immediately just starts getting you to ask questions of what's the package, what's the value, why would the Raptors want him after, you know, the abysmal showing he had at times throughout this past playoffs. Now, I'm just gonna ask you to hold off on the recency bias a little bit when, you know, thinking about this, you know, potential idea of trading for Simmons, and just hear me out on some of the pros of Ben Simmons and why, you know, there's still a lot to be gained from a potential Ben Simmons trade, whilst also hear me out on the big reason why ultimately I still probably wouldn't do it. Now, I know Ben Simmons didn't have a good showing in this year's playoffs, and it soured a lot of people on his value and on the idea of trading for Ben Simmons, but I do want you to hear me out on the type of value that he can bring to a team, and particularly in this case the Toronto Raptors. Just put the pitchforks away for now, that's all I'm saying. So with Ben Simmons, obviously I will still argue tooth and nail that we have not seen the best version of Ben Simmons, and part of that is frankly because of himself. I do think there is a massive mental block for whatever reason that Ben Simmons just hasn't been able to cross, and I'm not even talking about the shooting. The shooting is its own thing, but for me the thing that particularly bothers me the most is Simmons' lack of aggressiveness when really just facing mismatches, frankly. Like, the biggest example I can give you off the top of my head is in the Hawks series. There were so many times when the Hawks comfortably threw guys like Bogdanovic to guard Ben Simmons. Now, if I was a coach, which I'm not, and I'm not pretending to be, but if I were a coach, well, I guess I am pretending to be in this case. Anyways, I would look at that matchup. I would look at the fact that, you know, somebody like Bogdan is guarding Ben Simmons, and I would immediately think that is an exploitable matchup because Ben Simmons can just take him to the hole, can be aggressive and attack the basket and bully him that way. And that is where I think the biggest mental block that I see, or at least the one that bugs me, it's not the shooting, really. It's the lack of desire to just be aggressive and take advantage of the fact that you're probably one of the biggest guys on the court in most scenarios. Offensively, at least. Defensively, he takes advantage of that, which blows my mind. But offensively, he doesn't. Now, I bring this negative up to kind of allude to the fact that I don't think this is a problem that isn't correctable. I do think all it takes is 1-2 good coaches to really look at you and just be like, hey, that shit you've been doing, you can't get away with that anymore. And I do think the Raptors do have the guys for that, obviously between Nick Nurse and the assistants. Honestly, the other thing that will go a long way for Ben Simmons, you know, recouping his value and kind of, I guess, changing his perception as a player, is honestly playing in a situation away from Joel Embiid. Now, Joel Embiid is a fantastic player. He's a top 10 player in the league in all likelihood. Yeah, he's a top 10 player in the league. So it's not a slander on Embiid. It's just, it's something I've been saying for years. I don't think their playstyles complement each other, and I think it's painfully obvious at this point that they don't. With Joel Embiid, he kind of wants to slow the pace down, kind of attack in the half court, bully guys on the block. So he needs a guard that's just gonna potentially be able to play off that, be able to play on the perimeter, and obviously Ben Simmons isn't that, and frankly, I don't think Ben Simmons should be utilized necessarily as a guard, more so as a point forward. I think that is how you would best be using him in an offense, and particularly in the Raptors offense as well. But my point there being, to bring it all back, is Ben Simmons needs to be in a situation where the offense is up-tempo. And I think the Raptors do have the personnel to potentially build that offense. Like, in theory, if we're envisioning it here, I think between guys like Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, if you're sticking Ben Simmons beside that, there's the makings of a very good up-tempo offense. Now, obviously, come playoff time, those offenses slow down anyway, so you will still need to find value out of Ben Simmons in the half court, and you will need to coach him up to be a better half court player than what he is, because right now, outside of his playmaking, he's not really giving you that much value in the half court. So that's an issue in itself. But as far as just building a better offense to suit Ben Simmons to capitalize his value as a player, I really do think the Raptors have that opportunity, which is why, you know, it's not crazy for me personally to see why they'd be interested. I see the appeal, and I think there's a potential to have a good fit there. And obviously with the right coaching staff, you can bring, I think, Ben Simmons out of his mental block a little bit and kind of get him going a little bit better. And frankly, I think even just a fresh start itself should do wonders for Ben Simmons, and not having the pressure of being in a place like Philadelphia, especially where the fans are a little toxic, to say the least, across any Philadelphia sport, really. Though that being said, with all due respect to Raptors fans, yeah, we definitely have our bad seeds as well, so I'm not going to pretend like Toronto's perfect by any means in that regard. But I do think we're better than Philadelphia, I will say that much. So I think a fresh, set of scenery and an offense that is better suited to his game, and a coaching staff that could potentially just remove the mental block, or at least, work on removing the mental block with Ben Simmons, would really go a long way to seeing his value grow again, seeing him, recapture his just change the narrative around him as a player, or at least the narrative that has been built from this past year's playoffs. I don't think he's a lost cause by any means. I mean, the dude is 24. He fits with the timeline well with the Raptors, first of all, which is great to think about. You still have enough time to change what Ben Simmons is and to help him grow. Obviously, I think one of the bigger knocks on Ben Simmons is he doesn't seem like he's grown that much from, his first year to now. But I do think if there's any staff in the league that has the development and that can, take a player and get the most out of him, it is Toronto. And even if they don't, I think there is a role for Ben Simmons out there as a, high-end Draymond Green that can really serve any team well, and in particular in this case, the Raptors. So with all that being said, why not do this deal? First things first, as far as a potential Ben Simmons deal goes, I don't think I would want to see it in a scenario outside of a Kyle Lowry trade, like sign and trade to the Sixers. I think I would be really hesitant to let go of any of Fred, OG, or Pascal, in favor of adding Ben Simmons to the team. In a sign and trade, I would like featuring Lowry, whoever else, and assets to the Sixers. I would be in theory somewhat game for that package. It kind of hinges on whether, from Philadelphia's side at least, whether or not they still view Kyle Lowry as an all-star caliber player, which is what they have said that they want in return for Ben Simmons. So if they get a better package, obviously this is all, I don't want to say meaningless, but you know what I mean. From the Raptors side of things though, the biggest reason why I just can't get behind the idea of a Ben Simmons trade, it's the max contract that he's on. Oh my goodness. Just think about it this way. In his last season, Ben Simmons is going to be a $40 million player in the last year of his contract. Oh, I just think for the Raptors and for potentially building a contender, building a team that can go get a championship, Ben Simmons can't be your highest paid player. I know Raptors fans already think that Pascal Siakam is overpaid, which frankly, I don't believe that to be true. But by comparison, Pascal Siakam's contract looks like a steal when you're stacking it up against Ben Simmons' contract. It's very, very hard to get behind the idea of paying Ben Simmons that much money and kind of viewing him as, I don't want to say a project, because Ben Simmons already obviously has his built-in value. I don't think it's a stretch to say he's one of the best defenders in the league, and he's obviously a very good playmaker. And frankly, you know, if you can get Ben Simmons out of that mental block that I was talking about earlier, and you can get him to be a bit more aggressive, his playmaking will only be better and will open up just so many easy looks for guys like Fred, guys like Pascal, guys like OG. But goddamn, taking on a project on a max contract? No way, man. No way. I genuinely think that is where I draw the line with this. I think if Ben Simmons wasn't on a max money contract and the Raptors had a chance to go get him, say, with a Kyle Lowry signing trade, obviously draft assets, everything else that's included in that, I would be all for it. I really would. I don't think he's a lost cause, but I don't think he's a cause that you want to take on for the price of 30 plus 40 million. It's like on an annual salary. It's just not worth it for Toronto. I don't think you're going to be putting yourself in a position to win a championship if Ben Simmons is the highest paid player on your team, or maybe even if Ben Simmons as the second highest paid player even. I don't think you want to be putting yourself in that scenario. I don't think you want to tie, you know, your cap space into that scenario. It's just, to insert a corny joke here at the end, the price just isn't right on this one. So what do you folks think? I know Ben Simmons is one of the most polarizing players probably in basketball right now. Frankly, I think he has taken the crown from Paul George as the most slandered player in the NBA currently. So that being said, what do you folks think about a potential Ben Simmons to Toronto trade? Do you agree with me that the contract just isn't worth taking on, even if you think you can, you know, fix him a bit as a player to get better value out of it? Or do you think that Ben Simmons can still tap onto that superstar potential as he's only 24 years old and there's still more than enough time for him to adapt his game, to grow his game, and scratch the surface of what a lot of people thought he would be when he came into the league? Comment below, let me know your thoughts. Other than that, usual drill, as always, like the video, it gets it out to a bigger audience and it's super appreciated every time you folks do it. Other than that, I'm not even gonna give you a shtick about the subscribers. I'm just gonna post the graphic up and just stare at you awkwardly for about 5 seconds. I think that gets the message across. Other than that, that's gonna do it for me here today. I am out of here.